Hello, welcome to Tilt Conversations here at HCMA Architecture Design. I'm here with Vanessa, an architecture intern, and rather intern architect. And here at HCMA, we drink a lot of coffee. Cheers. We even have a coffee club. But a little while ago, we started something called Rate the Space Blind Coffee Dates. Vanessa, what are Rate the Space blind coffee dates? Tell us about that.
Rate the Space blind coffee dates are coffee dates that we go on with coworkers. Coworkers that we don't necessarily work with on a day-to-day basis. It might be myself as an intern architect with, say, a controller in accounting, or just someone from a separate project team who I don't necessarily see day-to-day. We are told secretly where to show up, what time to show up.
But you don't know who you're, it is literally a blind date.
It's literally a blind date.
You show up, it could be me, it could be a partner, it could be the new guy, it could be somebody from accounting.
Yep.
And then what occurs?
Well, you find out who your date is when you see someone else from the office.
Yeah, like, yeah, I know you.
Yeah, you must be here for the date. Know you. Yeah. Right. And you're basically given these sets of cards, which are sort of coffee coasters. The very first card is perhaps the most fun one, where you draw your partner and say who you are and where you're at. And then there's a series of cards that sort of ask you questions about the space, what works about the space, what the quality of the food is like, what feels good, what's comfortable, what kind of people are using the space, how they use the space, what's accessibility like, all kinds of bits.
So as a space designer, your job, you have unique perspectives on an environment. When you're in cafes, why did we choose cafes for this? Why is that important?
Cafes are interesting because they're sort of a funny realm of public space, and that they're, a public space that you're invited if you are in a patron type of situation. Vancouver is really interesting with coffee because we have such a coffee culture.
Sure do.
And sort of as individuals, we identify with a particular cafe or a particular series of cafes depending on
what tribe we're in. Exactly,
and what we like about them and what we're going for. Right. Some cafes have music culture, some are really high in design that align with our sort of personal
values.
Bets. Yeah.
Right. So now, this has been a successful thing. This is all available on our website for open source. If you want to download these yourself, by the way, you can do these as well. But there's a story attached to these now. Recently, we've done this for a while. We've collected quite a bit of data. They all exist on this kind of database in terms of the things that work, don't work, and what have you. But we want a piece of work in this space related to this. Tell that story.
We did. So there was actually a select proposal process for a cafe that's going on at the Vancouver Convention Centre. We were some of the select proponents of that. And part of our sort of preparation, I'll say, was we sent two people unknowingly who didn't know about this potential project to go to the cafe that currently exists, rate it, again with no context or subtext in there, and then we showed up and
they didn't know. They were legitimately just rating the space on one of their blind dates.
They had no idea where
going. They didn't know, but it went into this database. Right.
Yeah.
And that won us the work. It was part of
it. I guess I would say what happened in that is when we showed up with these cards, it was part of our presentation to the client, saying, we sent two of our teammates here, and this is like a really honest and candid version of our experience, because
we saw.
The client recognized too that their current setup just wasn't working as far as their business model. Right. So this was the sort of extra part to it, and I think what really helped the client recognize that we were the right partner for them was that they're seeing how we as architects and designers view space through a different lens, and part of that is the tilt lens too, with these sort of extra things that we're doing, which I think show our depth of understanding and also the want for a deeper
understanding of the social construct and the importance of that space for our end users. And so here we are, months later. You're working on the project. I think these are pieces of it. What insights? What happened? Where are you at? What's happening now?
So some of the big things we learned, and this would be through the data collection, once we have all these coasters from the various blind dates, is we sort of have an ongoing Excel sheet with answers to the questions.
Okay.
And like I said before, some of the questions are about the space. Some of them are about food quality, which would be more of like a function for the client.
Yeah,
absolutely. Right. But from our point of view, one of the big things we learned is that people love variety of seating. And that would be like height of seating, how many people sit at a given spot. Yeah, where you're sitting, meaning are you at a window looking out at the world? Are you in a cozy little space? Is it big? Is it small? Is it soft?
Today I may want to sit in a corner. Tomorrow I may want to sit on a couch. Like that.
With 10 other of my friends
exactly.
or whatever.
It would change over time, right?
Absolutely. So this project is a little bit unique because it's not just a cafe, it's also a wine bar as well. So they sort of have that more afternoon, evening approach, I'll say, as well. But one of the big things we took away from that is we do provide a variety of seating. We have these large curved booths that are in this really luxurious sort of lagoon blue velvet that are really encompassing, and those come in, sizes for 2 people or sizes for a big group of 8. We also have, 2 tops with harder wooden chairs at a wooden table. 2 tops being
tables with 2 seats.
With 2 seats, absolutely. We have a long table sitting for larger events, and then long tables that actually pull apart, if you had a series of smaller groups. So that was a big thing we learned. Another one was literally, the sense of space and that sense of belonging too. So one of the challenges that came with our project is it lives in the lobby of the convention center.
Which is huge.
It's enormous. It's meant to hold thousands.
Structure.
So it was sort of, the challenge of creating a space within a non-space. So one part of that was to create a permeable edge that sort of invited you in, but created a real soft boundary. And we did that out of these blue booths. A second part of that was to create part of a beacon. And that also speaks back to how we exist to the coffee culture, where we have a personal identity that has some sort of image we, project on this coffee shop. Absolutely. So part of that piece, which also was a spatial component, was a large overhead canopy that we're really viewing as beacon, I'll say.
Like an icon that you could, from way on the other side, you could see that thing. And
absolutely.
There's the cafe.
Part of that is curiosity of, hey, what's that? Let's go check it out. Right. And then part of that is, hey, there's my familiar piece. So this over here actually is a mock-up that we've got hanging in our model shop right now. So this is just made of 1-inch plastic PVC piping. We were doing this to sort of get a sense of scale and spacing and what feels right. In reality, it will actually be built of 1-inch brass tubing, and it'll have little sort of sparkling lights in between it. So it'll be this really big.
How many of these will there be?
There'll be 600 of them.
600 of these?
Yes.
Way up in the sky.
Absolutely.
Lit from within.
Yeah, so hanging partially from 1 and 2.
Drawing people into this warm space with flexible seating.
Absolutely.
And all of that sort of began by exploring this kind of social space with different eyes, with a new kind of perspective.
Absolutely.
Wow, that's amazing.
It's exciting.
So that's actually really great because, some people ask us sometimes, right? Well, why do you do Tilt? How does it connect to the practice? Where are those dotted lines? And this is one of those examples where one has informed the other, and then it'll go back again into elevating our practice and our ability to, really emphasize social spaces in our design practice.
And understand them as users, not just as practitioners that provide them for others.
Right. Well, that's amazing. Thank you, Vanessa, for your time. Thanks. So that's what a Tilt conversation looks like, and I hope you'll join us again for another one. You can get in touch with us at hcma.ca, and my name is Mark. This is Vanessa. Until next time, bye-bye.